Okay, I saw today where Kevin is making the steel force for the fairy die on the Potter group, and I think that's great, so I'm going to get me a pair. But I thought that I would make a video here to show you guys how, when I do have a impression die and the force to go along with it, which is rare. I usually just have impression die, but when we have both, to show you how I use them together to make some really cool, clean impressions. I've sort of struggled for the past few years and just figured things out myself. So disclaimer here, this is just the way I do it. There may be better ways to do it. So I'm not making this to say this is the best way to do it. It's just the way that I do it. So if you order those, I see a lot of people expressed interest from Kevin to getting those steel force. Here's one, for example, that I've had for a while, the steel force of this lady. And I happen to have an actual impression die that's the matching die. So it makes it really nice to be able to get clean impressions when you have the pair. When you have that force that can fit right down in the impression on the die like that. And you don't have to use lead or urethane or things like that. So I'll show you how I do it, because if you're not careful, what will happen if you don't get these things lined up just right, and you use a hydraulic press and you press them together, then you can destroy hundreds of dollars worth of equipment here, worth of impression die and force by doing that. So it's taken me a while to figure this out. I'll share. Right now, I have an order from a customer for this comedy tragedy impression that I have, and this is the force that I have. I bought this off of eBay a couple years ago. I didn't have an impression die with it. If you don't have a die, you can't really use it for much. So I don't have all of the expensive equipment to make steel dies with. I don't have a 50-ton or 100-ton press. But what I was able to do was to make me an impression die from aluminum. So the purpose of this video is not to show you how to do that, but essentially I have an aluminum impression die here, and I have the steel force here. So same thing you'll have from Potter when you get your steel force and your impression die. So the way that I use these two together is since I make coins here, press these images into coins, it's important for me to get things lined up properly, because I want the impression to be straight and centered on the coin. You might not need to do that if you're just impressing these in, sheets of copper or silver or those type things. But while I'm here, I'll just show you how I do that real quick to get the alignment, and then I'll go over and show you how to get the hard part when you have the force and the die is that it's easy for you to see how to line these things up when you just put those two together. But when you put the metal that you want to press between, it's not so easy to see how to line them up properly. So I'm going to show you how I do that piece. But while I'm at it, I'll just show you a little bit more about how I line up coins in case you're ever pressing something that you do want to have sort of lined up a certain way. First thing I do is I mark the outline of the coin on the impression die so that I know it's centered. And I do that by using one of these things here that I think I bought this at Walmart or something like that, that's over in the school supplies area. So I find the one that is the closest to the size of what I'm pressing here. So that's closer to the size of the $50. And then I put it on my die and take a Sharpie and mark a circle around it. And then I have a few other lines just show me the top and the bottom. So that gives me some markings on my die. Then for my coin, which again, you probably wouldn't need to do this if you're just working with copper or silver sheet. But on my coin, I put it here on this center finder, and I find the center of my coin on the center finder and mark a line on it so that I know where it is. So here, I just do that, And I know now that I want to press this image on the face of the coin, so I'll put the line on the back of the coin that sort of shows me where the center of the coin is. So now that I have that, I'll take these over to my hydraulic press and do the pressing. So now my hydraulic press, this is a Harbor Freight thing. It's a 20-ton Harbor Freight press. I took the manual jack off and put a hydraulic jack on it. I've been using this for a long time, so again, another disclaimer. This thing is not anywhere near the quality of the Potter presses that you'll buy. I just can't convince my wife to spend the money to buy a Potter press. I like quality, but I can't hardly get her to buy off on the fact that I should spend that much money for a press. So I'm relegated to using this thing. I'd buy a I'd buy a Potter press in a heartbeat if I was doing this for more than just a hobby. So let me put it that way. So anyway, I had this Harbor Freight. It's not all that great. So you're going to see here when I'm working it, it's not perfectly level. This plunger here, once you use it for a while, it gets out of shape. It's not perfectly level. So but I sort of know what it is and what it does, and I can deal with it. I only say that to say when you see this pressing down, I'm going to have to do a couple pressings that you won't have to do just because it doesn't push down level. So that's just the way it is for me. This is not a safety video, so you're responsible for your own safety just like I am. So you're going to see me do stuff that some people might scream is not safe. That's just the way it is. I'm doing what I know to do. So to do this properly, I bought one of these things, again from Potter, from the Potter USA website. It's a magnet. You'll need that to do it at least the way that I'm doing it. So I'll take this magnet and I'll put it on my plunger there, and then that allows me something that I can stick my force to. So now I have a place where I can put my force to have it held in place. So then when I do that, the way that I get things lined up is then I put my impression die at the bottom. Go ahead and put my force down here. I line them up. Turn it around, it'll work better. I line them up where I know that they're aligned. And then I'm going to bring my magnet down. When I get close, I go real slow. And hold the impression die up off of the base here. You can see where I'm at. And my stand here for my GoPro just broke, but I think it'll work. So you can see where I'm picking this up here. I'm really close, but I pick this up so that I know that it is engaged, so that the two pieces are together where they need to be. Now, if you have a hand crank, then it's a lot easier. But I'm just going to go real slow now. To get this lined up where I have pressure here, but it's not, I'm not really pressing anything. But it's lined up and it's down. And then I let off the valve here, easy, so that they come apart, but they stay lined up. So I'll do that and let off easy. I'll let it raise up as far as I need it to raise up. Doesn't need to go too far. Sometimes when I do that, if I don't have them perfectly lined or whatever, I'll see the impression die shift a little bit or whatever. If that happens, then I repeat the process, because I want to make sure when I let off that pressure that my force comes up clean, nothing moves. That way I know when I press down again, I'm going to have perfect alignment between my force and my impression die. So then I take in my case, a coin. In your case, it may just be your sheet metal or whatever. And I slide it under there where I want it to be. I'm going to spend a little bit of time making sure that my coin is lined up the way that I want it to be lined up. Again, if you're doing just sterling silver, sheet, copper, whatever, you may not really care about the alignment. You just want to get it under there. So I'm going to get it lined up. So that I know that my impression is going to be as close to the center of the coin as possible. Then I'm going to come down slowly and easily with my ram until I make contact with the coin. Okay, there. Now I've made contact with the coin. Now I'm going to drive that ram down into the coin. But as I do that, I'm going to do it slowly, and I'm going to be looking at the gap, because for me, I don't want to ram it down so much that I'm going to mar the detail of my coin. You may not be concerned with that if you're using copper sheet or sterling silver. It's just up to you, but I don't want to ram this force all the way down into the coin and destroy the detail around the design. So I go down, I sort of look underneath, but it doesn't go down so far that I'm ramming the surface of the force into the coin real hard. So okay, had to wait for my air compressor to click off there. So now I have this first impression here. For you, if you have a good press, if you have the Potter press and everything's level and so forth, it's going to be a lot easier for you. For me, again, my press doesn't press down level. The back presses down on mine a lot. It sort of leans back. So the back presses down, and the front, I still have a little bit of a gap. But that's okay, I can work with that because I know that's what it does. But after I do that first press, then what I do is I take the magnet off. I don't need the magnet anymore. So now I just release the pressure, take the magnet off. Now I have the impression in the coin, so I know that it's sort of started. That's a pretty good impression already, but I want to get it just a little bit better. But now the coin will fit down in the impression die, and the hub will fit down in the back of it. So I don't need the magnet anymore to line things up. So now I can come here and just work without the magnet, which makes things easier for me. And again, because mine's not level, I turn it around and I press again. There, that should be pretty good now. I should have a pretty decent impression there. And I do. So now, I don't know if you can see that really well, but I have a good impression of Comedy Tragedy, centered. Everything around Comedy Tragedy is still intact because I didn't push it into the coin. The back is pressed nicely. So, I mean, this is just, you know, whatever the saying is, the cat's whiskers or whatever, as far as the way to make impressions, is if you have the force and the impression die, things are just so much easier when you don't have to use lead or urethane and those type things. And then sometimes what happens on my coins anyway is when I press them, they'll bow a little bit. And again, this may not be an issue for you if you're just doing copper sheet and so forth that you're going to cut out. But if that's the case, then I just take them. I'm going to need this. I could do this on my 20-ton, but it's just easier here for me to do this on my 6-ton that I have set up here. I just take them, put the coin back in the impression die. I have just a steel thing here that I put on top of it, and then ram that down with my 6-ton to flatten the coin back out on the impression die. So that way I don't have a a bowed coin, I have it flattened back out. And there you go. That's the way that I use an impression die when I have a force to go along with it, to make sure that it's lined up properly, that I get good, clean impressions, and that I'm not going to destroy my impression die or my force by pressing them together with them not being lined up. So I'm giving away one of my secrets here, but everything I know about this, I've pretty much, or at least 95% of it, I've learned through Potter. So this is just giving back a little bit to the community. Thanks.